The youth president who fought his own shadow.
The youth president who fought his own shadow. Long ago, in a quiet village nestled between thick raffia forests and a slow-moving river that glittered like broken glass under the sun, there lived a retired officer named Bassi. The villagers respected him. He had once served in the national forces, wearing polished boots and carrying himself with the pride of discipline. When he returned home after retirement, his back was straight, his voice firm, and his eyes sharp like a hawk watching the fields. The elders admired his orderliness. The youth admired his courage. So when the seat of youth president became empty, the council of elders gathered in the king's courtyard under the ancient udala tree. The air smelled of palm wine and fresh earth. After long deliberation, they called his name. Bassi, the chief elder said, striking his staff gently on the ground. You have served the nation. Now serve your people. The villagers clapped. Drums sounded. Women all related in joy. And so Bassi became the youth president. The golden years. In his first years, the village flourished. He woke before dawn, inspecting farms and checking on community projects. He organized the youths to clear blocked roads and repair broken market stalls. He ensured that disputes between young men were settled without violence. He would stand in the village square and say, "Discipline builds a man. Unity builds a community." The youth listened. Under his leadership, festivals became grand. The New Yam festival shone brighter than ever. Even neighboring villages began to speak of their progress. The king smiled more often. The elders nodded in approval. Mothers blessed his name. For a time, Bassi was not just a leader, he was hope. The first crack. But seasons change quietly. It began like a whisper in the wind. Bassi started attending fewer community meetings. When elders called for discussions, he sent excuses. He began to sit longer in his compound, receiving visitors who brought gifts, goats, jars of palm oil, bundles of money wrapped in cloth. His voice grew harsher. The once humble leader now frowned when greeted without deep bows. "If they do not respect me," he muttered one evening, staring into the fire, "I will show them who I am." Soon, projects slowed. Funds meant for repairing the village well disappeared. The market roof collapsed during heavy rain and remained untouched. The youths who questioned him were punished with heavy fines. Fear began to replace admiration. The whispers became storms. Women gathering by the river began to whisper. "Is this the same Bassi?" one asked. "He has changed," another replied. "Power has eaten his heart." The farmers complained that he now demanded a share of their harvest for community development, yet nothing was developed. When a young man named Itom challenged him openly in the village square, Bassi's eyes burned with anger. "You dare question me," he thundered. "Without me, this village would be nothing." The silence that followed was heavy and cold. For the first time, the villagers felt afraid of their own youth president. The summons to the palace. At last, the complaints reached the elders. They met again under the udala tree. Faces were grim. Voices were low. The king, draped in coral beads and royal cloth, listened carefully as one after another spoke of corruption, arrogance, and neglect. A messenger was sent. Bassi was summoned to the palace. When he arrived, he walked proudly, but the atmosphere was different. No drums welcomed him. No smiles greeted him. The king's voice was calm but firm. "Bassi, son of this soil, we have heard troubling reports. The people say you have changed. Tell us, what has happened?" Bassi folded his arms. "People talk too much," he replied sharply. "Leadership is not a bed of roses. They do not understand the burden I carry." The elders exchanged glances. "Are the accusations false?" one elder pressed. Bassi avoided their eyes. "You gave me authority," he said. Do not question how I use it. A murmur spread across the courtyard. The king's face hardened. You forget yourself. Still, they decided to give him one more chance. Return, the king declared. Rule with fairness again. This is your final opportunity. They fall into darkness. But instead of changing, Basi grew worse. He began ruling with suspicion. Anyone who spoke against him was labeled an enemy. Meetings were conducted in secret. Youth funds vanished entirely. Strange men from distant villages began visiting his compound at night. Chickens were found slaughtered at crossroads. White chalk symbols appeared on walls. The villagers grew uneasy. He is seeking dark powers, whispered an old woman. Fear thickened like harmattan dust. Children were warned not to pass near his house after sunset. The final decision. Enough was enough. The elders gathered once more. This time, their decision was swift. A leader who forgets his people has already lost his throne, declared the oldest among them. They selected a new youth president, young, humble, and respected. The king announced it publicly. The position of youth president is no longer Basi's. Gasps filled the air. The rage of a broken man. When Basi heard the news, something inside him snapped. They cannot do this, he shouted, smashing a clay pot against the wall. I built this leadership. He refused to hand over the insignia of office. He blocked the new president from accessing community documents. He threatened anyone who supported the change. At night, drums were heard from his compound, slow, frightening beats. He sought the help of a feared herbalist from deep within the forest. He performed rituals under the moonlight, chanting words no one understood. I will reclaim my position, he swore. But the more he struggled, the more things slipped from his hands. His allies abandoned him. His charm failed. The anger of the ancestors. Then strange misfortunes began to follow him. His crops withered unexpectedly. The anger of the ancestors. Then strange misfortunes began to follow him. His crops withered unexpectedly. His goats fell sick. His compound caught fire one dry afternoon without explanation. The village oracle was consulted. After casting cowries, the oracle's voice trembled. The ancestors are angry. Leadership is sacred. It is not a personal possession. He has desecrated what was entrusted to him. Thunder roared that very night, though the sky had been clear moments before. Basi fell ill, plagued by nightmares of shadowy figures chasing him through endless forest. He saw visions of elders shaking their heads in disappointment. He saw himself standing alone in an empty village. The lonely end. Power had once made him proud. Now it left him alone. No one visited him anymore. The same villagers who once praised him avoided his gaze. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the raffia trees, Basi sat outside his compound, staring at the fading light. He finally understood. Leadership was not ownership. It was trust. And he had broken it. The village, under new leadership, slowly healed. Laughter returned. Projects resumed. Unity was restored. But Basi remained a cautionary tale told to every young leader who rose to power. And whenever the elders spoke of him, they would say, a man who fights his people fights himself. And a leader who disrespects the ancestors will one day answer to them. And so the story of the youth president who fought his own shadow was passed down from generation to generation, a warning wrapped in suspense, whispered beneath moonlit skies.